Welcome to the only place where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with IFBB Bikini Pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Rains-Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. Today's athlete is the youngest IFBB Bikini Pro. She started competing at 17 years old, earned her pro card 12 hours after graduating at 18 years old, and has since hit the ground running with her rookie pro season. Her goal is to inspire others to find their passion the way she has found hers through this sport that really changed her life. And she wants to let kindness be her legacy. And after competing in 2 regional shows, earning her first place, she then went on to place 4th at her first national show before earning first place and her pro card at Junior Nats, and then completed an improvement season and has now started her pro season with 3 pro shows already under her belt. And we're going to get some insight into what is next for her. But welcome to the show, Tianna Weymouth. How are you doing?
I'm doing so good. How are you?
I'm awesome. Thank you so much. I know you just told me how to say your name, but see, I still messed up. But I want to let everybody know who's listening. You can also watch us on YouTube. So that's celestial_fit. And if you go there, you'll see our episode in the Confessions of Bikini Pro podcast playlist. But of course, if you're just listening, thank you for tuning in. And before we jump into everything, I got to ask you, is there anything you do or think about, or maybe a ritual you have right before your heel hits the stage?
So I actually kind of figured it out at my last show. Literally just like, don't think, just do it. Like, I don't know how to explain it. It's like, because when you overthink, you tend to mess up. I kind of like went on stage and just didn't think at all.
I love that. Oh my gosh. I think there's actually a quote that says, don't think, just do. I had a mentor who used to always say that to me.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, I didn't even think about like, oh, I need to arch my back. I need to do this and that. Like, I just thought of 2 cues, just keep the core tight, because that's my like weakness. And then that's all I really thought about on stage, and everything else just kind of flowed. And I was like, oh my God, thank goodness.
Yeah, definitely. Well, you've made some amazing improvements over the years, but I want to go to a post that you recently made, which was talking about how you wanted to find that little girl with the dream to go pro.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And you missed that feeling, but before this recent show, you felt that. One second. Sorry about that, you guys. I'm still recovering from a cold, so I'm going to be coughing probably a little bit. Okay, I'm back from my coughing fit. So anyways, let's go back to the beginning. You wanted to refine this, dream that little girl had from the beginning, and you emphasized working on your mindset to help rediscover this little girl in you. So what was going on that made you feel like maybe you lost that feeling or lost that little girl in you with the dream after earning your pro card?
So I'd say, so the feeling that I had last year, it's indescribable. It was just like this sense of like, I know where I'm going, and I know that I'm worthy of this, because all of my actions kind of just aligned perfectly with my goals. And it was just the main thing that I was focused on was just kindness, like just being a good person. And like, when you put good out into the world, good comes back to you. And that was the only thing that was really on my mind. Like, I wasn't rigorous with my like, I didn't tell myself, if you don't pose for another 2 hours, you're not going to do well, this and that. Like, the only thing I was focused on was just executing everything with like intention, and just like having goodwill and just spreading good into the world. And I'm not saying that those feelings were kind of like lost, but I was really hyper fixated on, oh, my posing has to be perfect, my everything has to be perfect. And I kind of just wasn't able to kind of sit back and be like, hey, remember what you stand for. Like do it with love and grit and intention. Don't do it because it has to be perfect. Do it because you want to make it individual and like represent who you are. So I feel like at my last show, I wasn't really keeping that in mind. I was kind of just like, oh my God, like I'm so nervous. This is a huge show. Like everything just has to be perfect, perfect, perfect. And I kind of lost sight of that. And that's part of the reason why I was so disappointed with how last show went. And it definitely showed in my stage presence because that was by far the worst stage presence I've ever had. Like no core control, just I wasn't confident on stage. I just felt guilty. I was like, wow, like really don't feel worthy being here. I didn't even take a moment to just like remember that kindness is my legacy. Like I didn't take a moment to just acknowledge like all that, if that makes sense. So I was really disappointed in my mindset at that show. And um after the show I had like I think 2 days of just crying and like really upset with myself because like I hold myself to that standard. Like I'm always gonna be hard on myself. And I just remember like crying, like sitting right here crying and being like, this sport, prep, bodybuilding, that makes me a better person because it teaches me life lessons that can carry through everything. And I was just thinking, like, I need to find that little girl again from last year who just didn't care about just perfection, just cared about spreading good everywhere. And I still do care about that, but I wanted to like maximize and like capitalize on that as much as possible. So that's what I did going into my last show. I just focused on goodwill, intention, and doing it with a smile on my face, not trying to be like perfect. And it really helped a lot. So those were the changes.
That's beautiful. You're so well spoken, and it's obvious you've given a lot of thought to your mission and your purpose and what you want to get out of this, like your why. What does
Mm-hmm.
it mean to you to leave a legacy of kindness? Like, what does that actually look like or mean?
Um, so for me personally, I feel like so there's a stigma in bodybuilding that it's like a selfish sport. And the reason I want kindness to be my legacy is just because like growing up, my parents always told me treat other people the way you want to be treated. I'm sure everybody's parents have told them that, but like my parents were very, I wouldn't say strict, but they disciplined me in a way where it's like you need to be kind, you need to be polite, you need to hold yourself to this standard because you never know what somebody's going on, like what's going on in someone's life, and you never know like what that person's struggling with. So it's just like that little ounce of kindness that goes a long way. And it just makes me happy being kind. And if I'm able to kind of like spread that energy in bodybuilding and show people that like you can be there for other people despite being through like a grueling prep or like having to be selfish, like you can still be there for other people. Like, you know, in prep, whether I'm in or not in prep, I'm still going to be there for all my friends. I'm still going to be like, if they need me to drive them somewhere, like do this and that, like I'll always go and help just because it's like, you know, I choose to prep. So it's like, you have to find the balance. So I feel like spreading good out into the world, that just brings good back to you. And it just makes you feel like you're working hard enough in a way, just because, like, you know, you can execute everything on your plan, go all out. But for me personally, there's always that 1 ounce where it's like, I always can do better. I always can do better. So for me, even if it's like not physically working to the point where I'm like going to die, like, it's just like, just making sure that I'm always going to be myself and just kind. And that's just my way of like working hard as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And what I appreciate about that too is the re-emphasis on carrying that with you and having things that you look for as a standard to
Mhm.
meet that goal, which I think is a really important thing. And I know that throughout your life, you have also had different challenges and
Yeah.
experiences. And at one point, when you were 14, you were told by a
Hmm.
doctor, you continued down the path you were on, you may not live very long. So, what was
Hmm.
going on at that time, and how did it contribute to the woman and the athlete you are today and this mission that you're on?
So yeah, when I was 14, I was like in kind of like the middle of my eating disorder. I was diagnosed with anorexia and orthorexia, and I had really bad OCD and like an exercise addiction. So, every morning, I'd say 4:30, I would wake up and I would just like do cardio and like jumping squats and jumping jacks and just work out to the point where it's like my body just went numb and I would start screaming and crying and like, I it was really, I don't know why I was doing it, because I knew that it wasn't normal, it wasn't sustainable, and like I think I did it because my parents knew that like I needed to eat more in order to gain weight. So in order to counterbalance everything, I was like, I need to do this exercise, this and that. And like it was just so, it was like, thinking about it now, it's crazy how I used to do all that. Like it would be 4 workout sessions throughout the day. Like even at school, I would run up and down the stairs after lunch to like burn off what I had eaten, and like uh in class I would lie to the teachers and be like, oh, I can't sit, like I have a knee injury, so I have to stand so I could like burn more calories. It was just crazy. And I was just like, I think one day I kind of woke up and I was just like, why am I doing this? Like I don't even know who I am anymore. I just kind of like forgot what it felt like to be Tianna, like to be me. And I remember like 3 years straight, I didn't laugh, smile. Like I forgot what a laugh felt like. And it was crazy because my mom even brought up, she was like, I haven't seen you smile in such a long time. Like my parents were like fully aware of what was going on, but it was up to me to get better. And like they told me, they were just like, we can't help you unless you want to be better. And then that's like, I think, yeah, they started taking me to the doctor for like monthly checkups just to like rehash on my weight and everything. And then that's when the doctor kind of like told me the reality of the situation. And then I really kind of just let it sink in. And I was just like, who am I? Like, why am I doing this? Like, this is not me. And then it was like a flip of a switch. I basically just woke up one day and I was like, I need to get better. So that was kind of like the advent to recovery, and then where the gym comes and all that stuff.
Yeah, I'm sure. So that reminds me of what you said before, which is like prep is not an excuse to be selfish.
Yeah.
And it's like you choose to do that, right? And then when
Hmm.
you're kind of like falling into an eating disorder mentality and it almost
Hmm.
consumes you and becomes your identity,
Hmm.
lose who you are. Like you
Yeah.
lose so much of what your joy is, as you said. And so
Hmm.
I can imagine that getting that back, like feeling more like yourself, finding yourself again
Yeah.
was a really awesome journey, or even recreating your.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
when you decided to start going to the gym and fueling yourself, like when you woke up and made that change, what was the
Hmm.
first thing that you did that really made you go, I'm back, like I'm feeling like myself again?
So it was actually my dad. So we were in Thailand at the time, and I was still like going through, like the four workout sessions a day, like trying to not eat this and that. And then I think my dad, because he was fully aware, like he's an alcoholic and he's like recovering right now, but he knows what it's like to have an addiction. So he didn't judge me because like, he was dealing with it as well. So he kind of was just like, your face is green, you look like you're dying. Like even the doctor said that, like you need to stop. And I was like flabbergasted, but then I was just like, okay, out of everyone, my dad knows, like he knows how hard it is because he is dealing with something eerily similar. Um, so then I was just thinking to myself, like, this is like my family that's here with me right now. Why am I torturing them doing all of this? So I was just like, this is not who I am. And then my dad basically just knocked some sense into me. And then he said, why don't we just start lifting weights? Like it's going to be completely different from what you're used to, because the goal would be to put on weight and muscle and like healthy body fat and like learn how to eat properly and this and that. And I kind of like let it sink in, and I was just like, like that's really interesting. That's like completely different from what I'm already doing. It would be a good challenge. And then from there, I was just like, okay, great. And I got really excited. And it was really weird. Like this sense of like happiness kind of just flooded through my body because it was a solution that I had been looking for like 3 years. It was just like I needed an answer. And it was like, it's such a weird feeling to describe. It just felt like everything felt right at the time. So I was like, yeah, let's do it. And then we flew back home, I think a week later. And then in September, he took me to the gym for the first time. And I remember I laughed for the first time in 3 years at the gym. And it was like such a beautiful feeling because it's like I forgot what a laugh felt like and what it actually felt like to be happy. So when I like met with this trainer, he like made a joke and I laughed and it was like genuine laughter and I was just like, wow, like this is so cool. And then from there, like the passion just skyrocketed at the gym and everything.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing. So it was like that moment kind of catapulted you into wanting to be in the gym, wanting to
Mhm.
invest your time into that journey. So
Mhm.
when you mentioned earlier your dad was really compassionate, he
Mhm.
understood because he's an alcoholic and he's recovering right now. And there was that
Mhm.
moment for you where you felt like maybe this everything's right with the world if I pursue this, and like now's the time to do this.
Mhm.
So how quickly did you go from working out 4 times a day and restricting food to fueling for strength and for muscle building?
Um, so like with OCD and everything, it was hard to kind of break out of those habits. So at first, I would like lift weights, but I would do like one cardio session before that, and like I would still under eat like carb wise. Like I was not eating enough carbs. And it was just trial and error. But then I started watching like YouTube videos and just like reading scientific literatures about like muscle, body mass, this and that, like and then I realized, okay, in order to restore my health, I can't be doing this rigorous like cardio because I have amenorrhea, which is like where you lose your period. So I was like, in order to restore that, I need to be eating in a surplus and not going to the extremes, just like, you know, finding the happy medium. So that's kind of how I had to switch. I was like I can't be infertile forever, so I need to like get on it now. And then the goal was just to restore health and weight and then strength because I had lost a lot of strength from not eating and all that stuff. It was and then I had the help of a trainer named Heath and he helped me like with my form and everything and we kind of like did a powerlifting approach at first to kind of like build mass and all that stuff.
That's awesome. Well, one thing I will say is you are freaking strong. When I was going through your page, I was like, this girl, she's strong.
It was weird. The first, I think that was in December, like the first 3 months of lifting, I was deadlifting 205,
That's
but it was
epic.
too low. It was at 98 pounds. And it was like, from there, I was just so obsessed with strength. And I remember my Christmas present, I told Heath this, the trainer, I was like, oh, like, all I want for Christmas is to be able to deadlift 225. He was like, we'll make it happen. And then Christmas time came like a week before Christmas. I like pulled 225 conventional. And I was
Oh,
just like, oh my gosh, like this is so cool. And then yeah, so everything was kind of like a powerlifting approach at first, but I always had the goal of like bodybuilding in mind, but I knew that powerlifting was the right thing to do in order to restore health at the time.
wow. And did you know it was the right thing to do from everything you were researching and watching and the trainer you were with?
Yeah, because he had like a similar journey to me, and he kind of like got into bodybuilding through powerlifting.
Hmm.
I wouldn't say like I was like a power lifter by any means, but I it was like power building. So we had the goal of bodybuilding, but we needed to just like build that strength first before like doing anything.
That's so smart. I think
Mhm.
that's a step that a lot of us miss in the beginning. And I
Mhm.
had a similar history as you with the nonstop working out every day after anything
Yeah,
I ate. I would work out. I would
a
make
lot of
sure
people. Yeah.
you like force it. A lot of people do go through it, but then when we find fitness, we don't take
Yeah.
the approach you did, which is fuel your body and focus on strength because sometimes it
Mhm.
seems the focus is still, I want to be lean, I want to be small. So
Oh
how was
yeah.
that like mentally to shift to like, I want to be a bikini competitor rather than starving myself and not feeling good?
I think honestly it was, and like this is not gonna sound the best, but social media kind of helps with that because I didn't have Instagram at the actually did I think I did. I didn't have a lot of social media at the time, but I do remember looking at pictures of like Whitney Simmons, Hannah Oberg, I think that's how you pronounce her
Mhm.
name. Natasha Ocean, just like those like OG fitness influencers, Jeff Nippard, Stephanie Buttermore. I started looking up to those individuals just because they kind of promoted health and balance and just like scientific information. So then from there I was just like, wow, these people look incredible and they're doing it like in a healthy way. So I want to emulate that. So that was kind of like my inspiration. And I was just thinking to myself, skin and bones, that's not a pretty look. Like a pretty look is like health. And obviously like competing, it's not healthy or anything by any means. I'm not saying that, but it's definitely the amount that I'm eating on prep is like 10 times more than what I was eating way back then. So it's like, obviously I was recovered before I decided I wanted to start competing, but it's just like different mindset, different outlook is just like having the goal to gain, not just like gain weight, but like gain muscle, gain knowledge, just gain everything as opposed to just like depleting myself of like family, friends, relationships, food, this and that. So it was just a good switch. I was like, this is the right thing to do. And I know that the universe is leading me this way for a reason.
Yeah. Well, I'm really glad you mentioned some of the people who inspired you because I was going to ask if you had any
Yeah.
inspirations as far as bikini competitors go. Are there any current that you have?
Yeah, I started the first ever bikini competitor that I started following was Ashley Coltwasser and then Jen Dory. I remember I think it was in 2018 she like placed second at Toronto Pro, and that's when I started like looking into like bikini and competing and all that. And I was just like, wow, this is so cool. And then Heath was like, you should compete when you're older. And I was like, really? He's like, yeah, you have the structure. Like, obviously, you're way too young right now. You're only 14, but it's definitely something that you can build towards and like work towards in the long term. And I was just like, how long do you think it would take? And he's like, I mean, I'd say like you could at least get top 10 one day. And I was just like, really? And it was just that one person that believed in me that just set fire in me. And then from 14 up until I was 17, my goal was to build as much muscle and density and like get healthy before potentially jumping into a prep when I was 18. So
That's amazing. I love
that was
that focus.
yeah, so that's kind of what I like focused on when I first like started lifting was just like health, building a good amount of density. So I knew that I wasn't going to be too small on stage because of my age and everything.
Yeah, that's I think the biggest thing for younger competitors is like
Hmm.
looking young on stage. And that's been some
Hmm.
of your feedback before, not
Oh yeah.
recently, which is great. But it has been your feedback before. So how has age played a factor in your mentality and how you view your readiness?
Um, so when I started competing last year, so I started prep at 17, summer going into senior year. I honestly wasn't really thinking about my age at first because at the gym and everything, people kind of just were like, "Oh, like that's so cool that you're in high school and you're doing this." So I didn't really see my age as any limiting or like defining factors of myself. But then when I started competing at my first show, everybody started like thinking about my age and they were like, "Oh my God, she's only 18. She just turned 18. What the heck?" Like this and that. And then I didn't want people to be like, "Oh no, like she's like not prioritizing school for competing," when in reality like I was studying in between finals and prejudging and everything like that. But that was the only concern I had, was that people were going to see my age and be like, "Nope, she can't do this. She needs to focus on school, school, school." And like that was like the one fear I had. But now age for me, it's up and down. You know, sometimes I look at it as an asset and it's something I should be proud of that I got my pro card at 18, my first ever season competing. But then at the same time, I just think to myself, like, you're only, well, I'm 19 now, and I just think to myself, you're only 19 and you're going, like, you're doing things with people that have so much more like muscle density and maturity than you. So it it doesn't discourage me, but it puts me in my place. It makes me realize, okay, you're only 19. There's no rush to any of this. It's a marathon, it's not a race. So it does help me stay in my own lane, if that makes sense. Which is what I like about being young. But then I just get scared that the judges are gonna be like, go home, you're too young, or something like that.
I bet they think it's awesome that you're up there because I mean it captures attention, right? You obviously look younger than some of the people you're standing next to, so they're more likely to stare at you like, "How old is that girl?" And they're gonna keep their eyes on you. And clearly, it hasn't hindered you. It's at least to our knowledge, right? You've been able to succeed. You had an awesome
Mm-hmm.
first season, and bodybuilding is so much deeper for you. And I think it's
Yeah.
great that you're thinking like long term, my impact and where I'm going,
Mm-hmm.
there's so much potential.
Mm-hmm.
And I would regret not asking you this. So I'm kind of going to backtrack just a little bit. But you said, bodybuilding really almost like brought you back to life in a
Oh
way and
yeah.
it gave you
It,
purpose. Prior to competing, there was the
mhm,
anorexia and uh, exercise obsession and
mhm.
OCD, and you were really stuck in that mindset.
Yeah.
Prior to that, were you an athlete? Were you like, what was your like kind of life before that?
So life before that, I was never athletic. I did golf, like I did every sport. I was terrible at every single sport. And like my mom just kind of like pushed me to do all these activities because she wanted me to find my passion. And I didn't like anything. I was just like, no, no, I don't like golf. I don't like tennis. I don't like swim. And like during the mile at PE, I would literally just like stomp the whole way. And it took me 30 minutes to complete the mile. And the rest of the class, like they were already done within like 7 to 10 minutes. And I was just stomping around the field. Like I hated all fitness, like sports stuff. Um, and yeah, so I wasn't really like athletic, even though I did sports.
Wow,
Yeah,
interesting.
like I was always the first one to like chime out in the pacer test at school, and like
Yeah,
I couldn't even do a pull up. I did my first pull up when I was 15.
that's awesome still.
Yeah. But yeah, like not I didn't have a lot of muscle like growing up, I guess. Like I only had abs. It was just a genetic thing, abs and shoulders.
Hey, that's really nice. Aren't you working to kind of hide your quads and your legs that you felt?
Yeah, they're a little extreme. It's so weird because during quarantine, like in lockdown and everything, when we didn't really like we couldn't go to gyms or anything, I noticed I was just like, my quads are a little small. So I just started hammering quads and that's all I trained. I didn't do glutes, didn't do hamstrings. All I did was quads, and I did heavy front squats, heavy barbell squats, lunges, everything like in my little gym at home. And I mean, and then like when the gyms opened up, all I did quads, quads, quad, and now I'm paying for it. So now they're very overpowering in some poses. So even the judge, he was like, "Your quads striate on stage. You cannot let that happen." And I was like, "Yeah, I know." He was like, "You're quad dominant, so do not let them get any bigger."
Hey, well, now you know at least. So what's your focus since then?
Um, So I still go all out on leg days in every single training session, but just no more quad isolation movements. And I haven't been doing quad isolation movements since I think November, but just being very mindful. So like wide stance, leg press, high stance, just not letting them engage in any way possible, no leg extensions. And just like really thinking about building density in my tie-in area and just my hamstring roundness and everything and bringing up my delts. So those are my main three focuses. And I can't think about quads. And then in my posing, I just need to tweak my foot placement and angle this way a little bit more just to hide that bulky quad so it looks more balanced and proportionate to my physique.
Yeah, definitely. It's amazing how much just tweaking the posing can do.
Mhm. Yeah, because like in my back pose, my quads don't look overpowering from what the judges said. Like they said your lower body's great. Like don't change anything, just don't let the quads get big. But in my front pose, my quad is really clunky and I'm still working on tweaks. Like my posing coach and I, it's like it's so back and forth. Sometimes we'll do like a full like a profile front pose where I'm just like my foot is just at 90 degrees, or like sometimes we'll do a 45-degree angle. It just really depends. But your body changes throughout prep, so I always have to be prepared to make tweaks every single show for my posing. So just practicing every single day.
Yeah, and your body can change so much, like you said, like day to day or week to
Oh
week,
yeah.
show to show. And
Mm-hmm.
who's your posing coach, by the way?
Tangi Johnson.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. I think I'm familiar with her. Well, that's really cool that you guys have that ability to like tweak, test it, make sure you're looking how you want to be looking. You went to
Mhm.
this recent show, you got the feedback that you should actually
Mhm.
keep competing, which you weren't necessarily
I
expecting.
know, I was so happy. I literally started crying. I
Oh,
was
that's
so happy.
awesome.
Mm-hmm. Because
So what's
he
next for
said,
you?
I am, I think 17 days out from the next show. Um, I'm not announcing it yet, but
That's
it's
okay. This
like,
will come out after your show. So we'll get to
oh,
catch up.
okay, perfect. But yeah, so we're 17 days out from that one, and then we have another one a week after. So it's like two shows back to back. And then we're doing shows all throughout summer up until September. So we're just kind of taking it one show at a time based on feedback, but we're not done yet.
What's your goal in this career of pro bodybuilder?
So obviously like everybody, my dream is to get to the Olympia stage one day. Um I have the goal of like getting there before I'm at least 23, or like at 23 one day. That's just my goal. I'm not saying it's gonna happen or anything, but that's just kind of like my dream that I'm working towards. And I'll do whatever it takes. So that's like my main thing. But then I also wanna like promote, what I stand for in bodybuilding and spread that into the community so people can, I want people to feel like they can connect to me in a way, but just because like we all deal with hardships and like curveballs that life throws at us. So like for me, my specific moment, whether that's like a year or like 10 years from now, I want my moment to be everyone's moment. And I genuinely want that so bad, because if I were to achieve that moment or anything, I feel like I'd be able to show people that you can start from rock bottom and really do anything that you set your mind to as long as you keep going. And I just want to like encourage people to never give up and don't listen to the naysayers, just keep going.
If you've ever struggled in your prep or your improvement season or any transition phase in this sport, you know how valuable it is to have that direct guidance and support, but it's so difficult to find, which is exactly why I created the on-demand mindset coaching platform for competitors that is only $9.99 per month. How it works is you log into the system and you select what season you're in, and then you're prompted to select a struggle you're facing, and then even more specific struggles branching off of that. And at your fingertips, you will be given direct guidance and support with a PDF resource as well as video trainings. And you have tons of access to years of group coaching calls that you're more than welcome to replay and watch, and you get access to a live group coaching call every single month. So you're not only getting support at your fingertips, but you're also getting an incredible community there to support you along your journey. If this is something you're interested in learning more about and exploring, you can sign up at www.celestial.fit/on-demand. and get access to this right away. There are no other join fees or cancel fees, so you can come and go as you please, and you are always welcome to be in the Build More Than Just a Body community.
That's beautiful. I just find your intention so awesome. And like I
Thank
said
you.
earlier, you're welcome. It's so clear, like that you think about this often, you focus on it. Now,
Mhm.
you did complete your schooling right before going and earning your pro card, and I'm curious
Mhm.
now. And then I think you just started more schooling, so I'm actually
Yeah.
curious what your education is looking like and what your
Mhm.
goals are personally.
So yeah, I graduated high school and then I got my pro card and then I'm currently at Seattle U. So I have an academic scholarship, which is so helpful. So my
Congrats.
tuition is like cut in half, which is really helpful. And it just makes me really excited to learn. And I'm doing a double major, so I'm majoring in business marketing and chemical engineering. Um, the reason
Wow.
Yeah, so the reason I want to do business marketing is just because like eventually I do want to start my own coaching company or like just have something to kind of like I guess the credentials, because like with marketing that just applies to so many things in today's world. And then with chemical engineering, my mom and I founded a stevia company in Thailand 3 years ago. We we like work in collaboration with the stevia plantation in Thailand. So to have the chemical engineering background, I feel like that would be really helpful for our business and our company. And we're already third party tested. So in order to expand to the US, I feel like it would help if we both like, my mom has all the educational credentials that she needs, but I still need mine. So I feel like having mine would really help as well.
That is so cool. What inspired that business?
Um, I think my mom and we were like, because this was like, I was 15, 16 at the time, and it was like COVID. We were like going to the grocery store and we had to like get a bunch of food just because like you don't want to be out for too long, and we saw like sugar-free syrups, and we were trying to help my dad with like weight loss at the time. And it's so controversial, like some people say sugar-free things and artificial things are bad for you, this and that, but my mom and I were like, well, we don't want to like give your dad artificial sweeteners. Like wouldn't it be so convenient if like it was just like pure liquid stevia, just like no stevia leaf extract, just pure stevia. And I was just like, yeah, that would be really cool because it's like, it's a pure substance. So then like later that year when we were in Thailand, we were like, it was so weird. It just fell into our lap. Like this lady that my mom met, she was like, oh yeah, like I have a stevia plantation. Like I just use pure stevia and everything. And I really want to find I forgot what the conversation was, but it just fell into our laps. And she was just talking about how she like wants to make pure stevia. So then my mom and her started talking, and then my mom was like, "Hey, Tianna, like come in here. Like we're gonna talk. Like I want you to be exposed to like business and just like how like what goes on behind the scenes in creating a company or business." So I was like going to all these business meetings every month and like on Zoom and everything. And whenever we were in Thailand, we would have like business meetings about it. And then finally, we signed like a bunch of contracts and we had more meetings. And then we like rebranded the plantation that she had to, it's called Sugar Via. That was like the original name of the plantation, but then it's like T Active. So like my name and um like fitness and all that stuff. So we kind of just like collaborated, rebranded, and then from there it kind of grew.
That's amazing. I think it's so special your mom involved you in that, and now you're contributing, you're part of it,
Mhm.
you're helping it grow, you're studying for it. So
Yeah.
you want to bring it to the US. That's the intention.
Yeah, just because I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I haven't seen any like pure stevia products anywhere unless it's like Whole Foods, but like I want to like branch it into like Target or something like that, or like Walmart, something convenient and like cheap that everybody can use. Because like there's so many stevia products with like stevia leaf extract, guar gum, xanthan gum, and I'm not saying those are bad ingredients, but it's not like a one ingredient thing. And like FDA and all that stuff, they're allowed to be like 20% off on everything. And I don't like that. So I want to like bring something that's 100% accurate to US market, because in Thailand, most things have to be 100% accurate on the
Wow,
labels
that's
and everything.
amazing. And why Thailand?
Just because my mom is Thai and I'm half Thai, so that's why we started it there and bringing it here.
That is amazing. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's just so cool that you and your mom are doing that together and you're
Mm-hmm.
developing it with her, and you have a vision for the brand as well, and you're
Yeah.
doing this while studying, while competing, while trying to make an impact positive in the bodybuilding community as well. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just I think it's really inspiring for other people who might be listening, maybe even some people who are 17, 18. I mean, I was just at the Jay Cutler and we saw the teenage class going, and I'm like,
Oh,
this is so cool.
yeah, it is. I love like so many younger people are getting into competing now, whether it's for the wrong or right reasons, but like it just, I've had a few friends who wanted to start competing just because they wanted to like push themselves and like better themselves. And that just, it warms my heart, because it's like prep really does make you a better person. And just like going to the gym, bodybuilding in general, like, my generation, there's so many gym rats in my generation now, and it's great because like the community and like the discipline that we all have at such a young age, when you start young, it follows you throughout life. So it just makes me happy that, you know we're all in this together, this whole community, and it doesn't matter how old you are, you can start whenever.
Exactly. And I think it is a different generation now. Like it's good that people are getting into competing, whether it is for the right or wrong reasons. I think eventually people find out if it's for them or not, and they kind of
Mm-hmm.
establish like their
Yeah.
reason for being in it, which is great
Mm-hmm.
because you're showing them what's possible. You're leading the
Yeah.
way in your generation and people around you, inspiring them a lot. And I remember when I started, I was 18 and I
Mhm.
was studying and I was doing my college classes, and I had to do an exam and discussions and all this right before, show. Like you're still going to your
Yeah.
show days while also working. And
Yeah.
it can be grueling. It can be intense. Like it's not easy. And I've only competed as a student. So this is going to be my first year not being a student while
Oh, that's
competing, which
exciting.
yeah, I'm like, how I don't know how it's gonna affect me because there's
Yeah.
pros and cons, right? Like when you're studying, you have your strict schedule, competing gives you a
Mm-hmm.
strict schedule, you've got the business you're growing to, you're a double
Mm-hmm.
major, so there's a
Yeah.
lot of focus. Now, how
Mm-hmm.
have you personally managed your time and your schedule to excel in competing while also maintaining your social life and your college life now?
Um, Honestly, just like it's so weird. I say it's like it's not super hard. It really like if you really know you need to get these things done, you somehow just fit it into your schedule. Like for me, 5:30 wake up, I posed for like an hour and a half, fasted, and then like depending if I had like cardio that day, I would do my fasted cardio, come back inside my apartment, do my vacuums, eat, go to school. And like for me, thank God, I had the privilege of choosing what times my classes started. So my first class would be like at 10 or at 9:30, and then all my classes would end by like 12:20. So then I'd come home, eat my pre-workout meal, go to the gym, pose after, come home, study, do homework. And then like I would only see my friends on like Friday, Saturday and stuff like that on a school, like during school. Um, and then like see my family every day, obviously, because like I'll just go to my parents' house at night and everything like that. So it's like you can make time. I had the privilege of like my cardio not being over an hour or anything like that. So it's like I was able to do it fasted every morning as well. And like just everything's non-negotiable. Like you have to get it done. Like you can't not do it. Otherwise you're not going to do well. So it's like if I don't do this, then this won't happen. So they're all like puzzle pieces that you have to put together in order to continue on to the next day. So that's just kind of how I looked at it.
Yeah, I love that perspective of like, this is really a non-negotiable if you want to be successful in this or you need to get it done. Like, there's a due date.
Yeah,
So that due date requires
exactly.
various things to be completed.
And this is like the first time that I'm competing without like school because it's summer break right now. So my schedule, I'm able to sleep in until 8 or 8:30 sometimes. Usually I'll still get up at like 7, and like do posing, cardio, and like do all that stuff first, gym. But like now I kind of have like a couple hours in the day where I can just like journal and like work on mindset and just like sit down and like do these things, this is something that I wasn't able to do during the school year. So it's like finding new ways to be productive without school as well. So I've been journaling a lot and like just doing a lot of writing and reflecting, which is really fun.
Yeah, that's so awesome. What are some of the things that you're working through right now to support your mentality?
So I have a notes page on my phone, and after every show, I write down physical and mental and emotional improvements that I need to make. So right now, the notes page, oh my God, it's so long, but I write like essays after every single show just about how I felt, how I handled myself, my composure, what the judges' feedback was, what my personal feedback is, what I'm gonna do, and like I kind of reestablish everything after a show and just kind of like go over my schedule again and like apply progressive overload to everything that I'm doing. So before Dallas, um in my morning posing, I would do 5 to 6 rounds back to back of everything. So of my routine of front to back transitions, comparison rounds. So now instead of 5 to 6 rounds, I'm doing 10 rounds of everything. And then that's only in my morning session. And then at my nighttime posing session, I'll just add extra rounds in between my individual routine, if that makes sense. So like extra front to back transitions. And then like I put on a 20-minute timer for comparison rounds just because that's how long they usually keep you on stage for. And then just instead of like holding my front pose for 4 minutes, now it's like 5 to 6 minutes. So just like progressive overload in everything. So that's just an example for posing. And then with training, because we have been reversing since my first pro show. Since I'm like reversing and my calories are at a really good spot and like my food and everything, just this is the time where I can really capitalize on building muscle. Like the time after a show, that's like the prime time to put on good lean mass. So I'm just giving everything into all my training, like like upping the weight more and all that stuff. Cause like during prep, obviously I still like pushed the same amount of weight and everything, but it was just like I was always dizzy. So I'm taking advantage of not being dizzy now that I have so much food in me and just like being able to up the weight on everything and just like focus on form execution and just like intensity. And it's really fun. It feels like I'm in an off season in a way just because of how much energy I have and like I feel so amazing.
That is so cool. I'm really happy for you that you're in that
Thank
place,
you.
especially with your goal of continuing to compete all the way through to September.
Yeah.
That's a wonderful place to
Yeah,
be.
like my health is amazing right now. Like literally like blood work, everything's great. I'm really happy that I've reached this point in my life where it's like I'm really healthy and like, you know, I'm not like even though I'm very lean, it's weird because my body set point weight, like I still have my period when I'm lean. So it's like, everything's good and healthy.
That's awesome. I'm so
Mhm.
glad that you're able to monitor all that too. And I know you've posted a
Mhm.
lot about how the encouragement of your coach has been really impactful for you. And
Oh yeah, he's amazing. Nelson Jones is my coach. He's believed in me since day one that I started working with him. And I have like the audio recordings of us talking about doing junior nats or not, because that was after I placed fourth at my first national show. And he was just like, if you just come in, if we just make you a little fuller and you just really nail that posing and this and that. And he was like, we can turn that fourth place finish into a first. And I wholeheartedly believe you can do that. And when he told me that, I got like chills and I was just like, we're gonna do this. We're gonna do it. And like that was like my motivation going into junior nats last year. So he even told me this season of competing, he was like, I wouldn't be allowing you to do this many shows if I didn't believe in you. And, having a coach that believes in you is everything. So I'm just so thankful for him. He's the best.
That's so cool. I'm glad that you have a coach who believes in you and encourages you while also prioritizing the things that matter most to you.
Yeah,
And
like he's great. Like during school, he was like, it didn't even feel like it was prep for the first 7 weeks just because like the changes were so slight yet so effective just because he knows my body so well. So like I didn't have brain fog or anything. Like I was still able to get good grades and end the year strong. And that was the best feeling ever. Just like I got my final grades the day before Dallas, and I was just like, yes, like I have an A in philosophy, I have an A in theology and a B in business communications. Like I'm so happy. Like now I can go like kill this show and like do my best now. And like, that was like motivation for me that like I finished the year off strong.
absolutely, yeah, it's
Mhm.
like you nailed it in that realm of
Mhm.
your life, and then you're gonna go
Yeah.
nail it in this one.
So then I finally felt worthy. I was like, yes, like I capitalized on all these other aspects. Now I like feel worthy. That makes
Right.
sense.
Well, yeah, because of what you shared earlier, like that one prep where you were only really prioritizing trying to be perfect, and that took
Mhm.
away from you being grounded and really
Yeah,
experiencing it.
exactly.
Well, I'm glad
Hmm.
that you had that improved experience and that your coach was so supportive through that and he knows your
Hmm.
body well enough. And you mentioned earlier your first personal trainer, Heath, and how encouraging he was as well. So I
Hmm.
get the sense that it, and you've already mentioned how important it is to inspire others too, but I think it's great
Hmm.
also been so inspired and uplifted by others.
Oh yeah.
So through this journey of
Hmm.
competing, it seems like you've come out of your shell more too. Like this
Hmm.
has been a lot of courage, a lot of strength,
Yeah.
maybe less likely to fall into your introverted nature. So how has
Hmm.
it influenced to like gain a lot of that confidence? How has it influenced those areas of your life?
Oh God, it's honestly, it's so weird thinking like when I was 13, I just the person that I am today and like what I'm doing, 13-year-old me dreamed of doing that. And it's so cool how I'm like able to do this. And it's weird because yeah, I've always been shy and introverted. I never like had a lot of friends growing up or anything like that. And then the moment I got into bodybuilding, you're surrounded by like-minded people and you're surrounded by people that are aspiring for change and like trying to better themselves, and just it's such a great community. And being in that community and like being in this industry, it's just like it's kind of like I don't know how to describe it, but there's no reason to be introverted because everybody gets it, like you're never alone. So it's so weird. Like competing has literally brought me out of my shell so much. I can't even describe it. Like I'll say this, like 2 years, if this was me 2 years ago, I would not be doing this podcast right now. I would literally be like in my room alone. So, it's crazy how like comfortable I am talking to people now and like actually sharing my dreams. And oh, the one thing that competing has helped me with, I am not scared of failure whatsoever. Like the reason I'm doing so many shows is because I know I'm going to fail over and over and over again. I know I'm going to get bad placing sometimes, good placing sometimes, who knows? But like I'm not scared of that. Like I want to embrace all the losses, all the wins, because it's just like it's part of the process. Nobody's perfect. You can't win at everything. And like I think failure is exciting. Like it's just a good way to be like, okay, this is what I need to work on, and it's like motivation. So I think having like with the absence of like that fear, that really just perpetuated my confidence and my growth and everything. Because now I just do things with no risks. Like I'm just like I don't care if this is risky. I'm still gonna do it. Like last year, people were like, "Oh, don't do junior nationals. Like you just did your first national show. You're only 18. Like take a break." And I was like, "No, I'm gonna do it. Like I'm not scared of failure. I want the feedback. I want to learn. I have so many improvements that I want to work towards, and you know, you never know until you try." So that's kind of like once you have the fear of failure off of your shoulders, everything just like kind of sets into place and you can really push yourself to the extremes.
That's beautiful. That's amazing that you've been able to embrace that because I think sometimes it's easy to get so fixated on winning and being at the
Yeah.
top, being perfect. And like you mentioned earlier, social media can be very
Yeah.
positive, right? It
Mhm.
can influence you in a positive way. And I think
Mhm.
sometimes there can be that pressure too of like, well, I gotta
Yeah.
look this way, I gotta be this way.
Yeah.
But releasing that, just enjoying the experience. And for you, like you're seeing it as opportunities to learn so you can achieve what you want to
Yeah.
achieve and do what you love to do.
Exactly. And like Kobe Bryant said this, and I listen to Kobe Bryant speeches like every night. But this one thing, like this was when I was feeling discouraged after Nevada State when I just wasn't in a good mental space. He said, "Look at failure with rationale. Go back to the drawing board and don't just think about like, okay, what went wrong, what can we do from there." So now I just look at everything with rationale because everything does happen for a reason. Like I'm so thankful that I placed dead last at Nevada State because that made me realize, okay, maybe it's not that you're not physically working hard enough. Maybe there's something else. And it just got me to dig deeper and really find myself again and find that little girl in me. And and then that led into Dallas, and I cut my placing in half at Dallas, so I was just really happy about that. So you can, when you look at things with rationale, you can really like look into like the cracks and crevices of it and really hone in on what you need to do.
Absolutely. And I think
Mhm.
that's an important note because sometimes well, we can allow ourselves to feel, right? Because that's that passion, but we can
Yeah.
also step back and like recognize that if we're only seeing it from an emotional perspective, we might miss some of
Mhm.
those key lessons or
Exactly.
growth opportunities. Like, oh,
Mhm.
this is teaching me this could be better. And I think it's cool
Yeah.
that you apply what you listen to and what you've learned, and it actually helped you to then see an improvement, which is
Yeah.
great reinforcement to keep doing that.
Oh yeah, like even though I placed significantly better at Dallas than I did at Nevada, and like my feedback was very doable, I'm still journaling and finding ways to better myself. So going into this next show, my main focus is going to be obviously progressive overload and executing everything with so much intensity, but also progressive overloading with like the amount of time I'm spending with my family. So I'm gonna like, just start being just talking to my dad, just sitting there talking to him for longer. Because like obviously I did that before, but I was like busy with school at the time. And since I don't have school right now, now's the time where I can really just like open up to my dad and like be transparent and just get even closer with him because bodybuilding brought us closer. So the goals for next show, despite like not just thinking about like the physical changes, like mental changes, it's just gonna be like really appreciating every single moment and like just living in the moment and not looking ahead and just focusing on 1 minute, 1 day at a time and being with family and friends and just being present and just like enjoying myself. So that's going into this next show.
That's awesome. So,
Mhm.
talk to us about how bodybuilding brought you closer to your dad.
So since he was the one that got me into weightlifting at first, um, he had to come with me to the gym every time because I was a minor at the time, and like your parents have to go with you at 24-hour fitness if you're like under 18 or 16, something like that. So when he saw my progress, he was just really supportive. He was like, "Oh my God, like you're a mini me," because he used to like lift weights when he was younger. And he's like, "Look at those shoulders, like, oh my God, like I'm so proud of you, like your lats." And it just brought us closer together because my progress made him excited. And then he was like, "I'm gonna start working out again, this and that." And then last year, when I won my second regional show, that was the first show he ever had like he came to, and he was sitting in the audience, and I didn't think I was going to win. Like I thought I was going to get like third or something, and I was just like, this is for my dad. Like this moment is for my dad. He's in the audience. Just do it for your dad. That's all I was thinking about. And then they announced my name, and at first I was just like, there's no way. There's no way I just won my class. And then they announced it, and I just started bawling on stage because I looked at my dad and he was tearing up in the audience. And then from there, a week after, like for a week straight, he didn't touch a single drink or anything. And he was like, "I'm going to start working out in the gym that I have in the basement, this and that." And like, he's so proud of me. And like flash forward to today, we're just growing closer and closer. And bodybuilding has helped me have that like utmost respect for my parents. And just like, I don't think I've ever had a disagreement or like an argument with my parents since I was 16, just because of bodybuilding, just because it gave me so much respect for them, because they allowed my passion to seep into their lives, and they helped me get to where I am right now. My mom would be like, "Oh, like, do you need protein powder? Like, I'm going to the store. I can get you some protein or this and that." And like, they understand everything, and they want me to succeed so badly. And like, obviously, I support myself through competing because I have graduation money saved up. But like groceries, sometimes my mom will be like, "Here's $200 as a little present for you for like
Aw.
just doing so amazing. You can use this for groceries or something." So it's like, those little acts of services, like I'm so thankful for it. And I don't ask for it. Like I tell my parents, you don't need to support me. Like I can do this. Like I worked in high school for a little bit, so I have money saved up. So you don't have to go all out or anything. And they were like, we're just proud of you. And it brought our family closer, because you know it's like we're all just so connected now. And we all, like, my mom's passionate about bodybuilding now. Like she finally got Instagram, and she's like she stalks my page, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, like your delts have grown so much." And I'm just like, is this my mom right now? Like, what the heck? Like, and she like knows everything from prejudging to finals. And my dad doesn't know too much about that. So my mom's like sitting there explaining to him, and it's just really cute to watch. She's like, "No, so prejudging, this happens, this and that." And my dad's like, "Oh, I see." And it's just so cool. And like, they do this because it makes them happy too. And it's like they come with me to every show. And it's just, I have my little support system. And like, me competing, it's kind of like a family vacation in a way, because we don't ever do that ever, unless, like, because we all work. So it's just like our little getaways as well. And it brought us closer. It's amazing. You can
That
just
is
see
amazing.
us smiling thinking about it, because like it wasn't like that before.
Yeah, so this really brought you guys into more of a family unit.
Yeah, because like, I mean, growing up, I always dreamed of having like a family dinner. And like, I always told my mom, I was like, "Oh, like, can we all have dinner together as a family? Like, my friend has dinner with both of her parents at the table. Can we do that?" Like, that was something that I've always wanted growing up. And we weren't able to do that just because of like, my dad's alcoholism getting in the way sometimes, or like, schedules, all that stuff. So, having just kind of like getting back what I wish I had in my early years. Just like, it's just, I get it now, and it's totally fine. It's worth the wait. And like, it just shows that we all had to work to get to this point, which makes it even more meaningful.
Definitely. I can sense this deep gratitude you have for your life and where it's at right
Yeah,
now.
I'm so thankful. Like, honestly, like, not just for my parents, but like for everyone, like everyone's supporting me. This would not be my reality if it wasn't for just people supporting me and believing in me, because, I'm still an insecure person. Like, I probably, like, I wouldn't say I would have stopped, but I definitely wouldn't have kept a good momentum going if I knew that there were other people that could relate to me or this and that. Like, if I just was isolated and alone, I feel like it would be harder to push through those breaking points and everything.
Yeah, it's like you found your environment, your people who
Mhm.
understand what you're going through and what you're passionate about.
Yeah, for sure.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
it's
so amazing. You've had such
Mhm.
an awesome journey, and
Thank you.
for being as young as you are, you have such clarity and a great way of expressing that, and you're so impressive. And
Thank
I
you.
Yeah, no, seriously, it's just awesome hearing from you and talking with you. A lot of your insight too from what you do and how you apply yourself after each show is really inspiring as well. But I want to give you the opportunity to share your best advice for someone who has never competed before but would like to, and then your best advice for someone on their road to pro.
Okay, so best advice for somebody who hasn't competed yet but wants to, right?
Yes.
Uh, do not rush the process. Because for me, I was that girl, you know, I was 14. I was like, I want to compete. I want to compete. No, if I competed when I was 14, I would have, no, that wouldn't have worked out. So take the time to just know what is necessary that you need to bring onto the stage. So, you know, make sure you have that solid foundation of muscle. Make sure your mindset is where it needs to be, and make sure that your relationship with food isn't disordered. Do not jump into a prep if you feel like, oh, like, you know, you can't, you know, if you just know in your heart that your relationship with food is not where it needs to be, please don't jump into a prep, because it just makes me so sad when people, the only thing that they look forward to after a show is like the post-show meal. Like when during prejudging, they're like, oh my God, like just looking through pictures of food. Like, I'm not judging anybody who does that at all, because to each their own. But that's not why I compete, and that's not why so many other people compete. We don't compete to reward ourselves with food after we compete, because it makes us a better person. So just like ask yourself, is this a passion or is this an interest? Because if it's just an interest and you jump into a prep and you know you're going to have those hard days, what's going to get you through those hard days? If it's just an interest, you're more likely to fold and go back to square one. If it's a passion, then you're going to push through no matter what. So just make sure that your heart is in it. So number one piece of advice is make sure your heart is in it and you're not just doing it for clout or anything like that. Doing it for yourself and to represent what you stand for and what you believe in. So that's my piece of advice there. And then for someone on their road to pro, don't be afraid of failure. My first national show, I placed fourth, and by no means was that a failure, because like, you know, it was like my first national show and I placed fourth, and I thought that was amazing. But just don't be discouraged. Don't ever give up, you know? Like after that show, a lot of people said, don't do another national show. You're not going to do well. And then some people said, yeah, do it. You're going to do really well. Just listen to your heart and listen to your gut feeling. If your gut is telling you, I can push, I can do this, I want to keep going, then go for it. Because at the end of the day, you never know until you try. And, you know, what can you lose? You have nothing to lose, you know? Like Arnold said this, the ground is right here. How far can you fall? The ground is just right there. So it's like the worst thing that can happen is you don't place that well, but you get the feedback and you know what to do going into the next season. So just like, if your body can handle it, if you want to do this, just keep going and don't give up, and just keep envisioning the goal. Because again, I feel like I have no place to give advice here, just because I got my pro card in my first season, so I don't feel like I'm worthy of giving advice here. But if I did not get my pro card my first season, I would still keep going and like keep envisioning it into my head and all that. So just manifest, envision, and align your actions to your goals.
Well, that is beautiful advice for both.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think it's totally worth sharing, and you're totally worthy of sharing it because of what you've accomplished, and you were
Thank
patient. Yeah, you started at 14, and just because you were younger, because you got in your first season, doesn't mean you weren't working before, and you earned that. So I'm glad you shared your advice.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And I want people to be able to follow your journey and stick it out with you and be able to even connect with you. I know you're open to that. So how can people find and connect with you?
Okay, so Instagram, it's my first and last name, TIANNA.Weymouth, so WEYMOUTH_IFBB Pro. TikTok, same username. I don't have YouTube. I really want YouTube. I want to start. Those are like the only two social medias that I have right now. And like you can DM me anytime. I respond to all my DMs because I really don't have much to do on rest days. So
That's
besides
awesome.
everything.
Yeah, well, you've got an amazing career ahead of you in
Thank
so
you.
many ways. Yeah, you're so welcome and you're amazing. I hope everyone will connect with you. You guys, I'm going to put her information in the show notes page. That's on
Yay.
celestial.fit/podcast. Yes, and by the way, I'm not just putting your handles, but my assistant also does notes for the entire podcast. So it'll
Mhm.
have a full summary of what we talked about, all the topics we discussed.
Oh,
Yeah, and episode timestamps. So if you or people listening want to share certain pieces of the episode, it's really easy to do it that way.
well, that's so cool.
Yeah, and I think with YouTube as well, like they end up being clickable timestamps
Oh,
because
yeah, I noticed that.
yeah, so
Mhm.
I think that's super awesome. But
Yeah.
anyway, it was so great to have you on the
No,
podcast.
it
Seriously,
was amazing being on. Thank you for having me.
you're so welcome. And to everyone listening, I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, night, or morning, or wherever you are in the world while you're listening to this episode. Just make it awesome.